And we are live. Welcome everyone to the MUISS ISO activity session of the 2020 MUSA election debates. So now, for a quick introduction, I am Raif, moderator for today's debate. Harish there is going to be the stream manager. And of course, we have Gerald, the MUISS ISO activities candidate. Along with today's session later, we'll be inviting on the current office bearer, Shivani. Also, briefly, we'll begin the session with a quick rundown of what it's going to be like today. We'll start off with, of course, the intro that we're doing right now, before moving on to opening statements for 5 minutes, followed by Q&A by the office bearers, as well as the public Q&A. So if you're watching the YouTube stream, do drop in your questions in the YouTube chat, and we'll be asking those questions during that session. Of course, after that public Q&A, we'll wrap it up with a 5-minute closing statement by Gerald himself. So now, moving to start with the opening statement for 5 minutes. Gerald, you have the floor.
So, hello everyone, good evening. My name is Gerald Cesar Rombalayog, or for short, people call me Gerald. I'm a Year 2 Semester 1 student in a double degree program, and I'm the candidate running for MUISS ISO activities. I have a deep-rooted motivation as to why I want to run as an ISO activities for MUISS. When I first got into Monash, I did not know anyone and anything. I was truly alone. It was because of MUISS's orientation event I was able to meet my very first friend and found many others along the way. So therefore, I sort of owe my university life to MUISS, because if it was not for the event, right now, I would probably still be having a hard time making friends and memories here in uni. MUISS was able to make me feel like I belong, like I have a community, and ease my transition process here in Malaysia. This is exactly what I want to do, and this is exactly my motivation for running in this year's election. I want to be there for the international students the way MUISS was there for me when I was still a new student. I want to make people who were like me, who felt like me, and maybe who are still feeling this way, who experienced this sense of alienation in a new environment, feeling like a fish out of water, to have a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a home far away from their countries. International students are miles away from their home. Most of them here at Monash in a very new and foreign surroundings in a new country, Malaysia. And if I'm an activities officer, it is my utmost priority to make them feel represented, to make them feel like they belong to the MUISS events. In my manifesto, I have talked about the events and plans I intend to do as a MUISS International Student Officer handling activities. I want to create events with meaning and purpose. I want to create events or innovate previous events to become more educative and raise awareness for the student community in Monash, especially as of right now, with many international issues happening, with many petitions being spread online. I want to use my platform to educate and raise awareness for certain issues like racism and others. An example of making events that educate is, for example, innovating Chill with MUISS. It is an on-campus event, and students usually can just walk into our booths and play mini games about a country and also get free food about said country. But I want to not just emphasize on the fun aspect, but also raise awareness in this event. I cannot just create mini games, but also, for example, telling them a general information about the issue that is happening in said countries and how we can help as students. I can provide them with QR codes for petitions and also materials or resources in the booth. For online events, I want to hold meaningful virtual seminars about these topics and also revamping virtual game nights that MUISS have been having this year to not just focusing on the fun aspect, which I'm all about, but also awareness because I have a platform. Also, not only am I planning to show innovation of MUISS events for the outside of the division, that is to the student, I'm also planning to better and create change within the MUISS division itself. As an international activities officer with more than 20 events happening each year, I'm committed in bettering the logistic part of MUISS, specifically how they handle their many events, to better overview and stay on top of them. I'm planning to use a management application or website called Notion that everyone in the team can also use as a way to have a more effective and efficient planning. As I am a subcommittee for this year and in the same department, I, as a subcom, are aware that all events are planned through the WhatsApp group chats. And so far it's working well, but I feel like it can be more effective and efficient. Therefore, I intend to launch an initiative for the MUISS division itself, all with the final purpose of having the best outcome of events for the students. Lastly, I want to enforce the coexistence of international students and locals to our events. I want to break the stigma that MUISS events are only for international students. I want to also go beyond this because personally, I sense a divide between internationals and locals, where very often internationals will choose to associate themselves with other internationals and locals will choose to surround themselves with other locals. I want to do this by having collaborations with other MUSA departments. I also want to just all in all make creates events for all Monashians that cater to international students, but also create a platform for locals to learn about new cultures. With past experiences of being a subcommittee under the same department and being part of an event organizer team in the past, communicating with vendors and other event management job likes are not foreign to me at all. Therefore, as I have experienced both handling events online as being a subcom and also offline, part of an event organizer before, I have no doubt that whatever the circumstances next semester is, be it online or offline, I will manage to execute the event smoothly. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gerald, for your opening statement. I will move on now to the second session of the day, Q&A by the office bearer, Shivani. Shivani, you have the floor to ask the questions now.
All right. So, I think the first question I want to ask you is, what motivated you to run for ISO activities in specific than like other activities, and also MUIS?
Yeah, so again, what motivates me is that again, I feel like when I first got into Monash, again, I have no one, and it's all because of Moise that I like can have friends and stuff. So I feel like I sort of owe the division itself. Like I wanna like contribute to the events, and I want to be in charge of activities because I want to create events that to help people who felt like me to so that they can belong and they can have friends, like, So like I feel like I sort of owe Moise, and that's why I'm running for this year's election.
Okay, and why do you think you're fit for this position?
I feel like I'm fit for this position because, again, as I said, no matter what the circumstances next semester, I feel like I am the only candidate with a complete skill set for this job. Because, for example, if next semester is online, I have experience handling events online before as I'm a subcommittee for this year. But if it's offline, I also am not foreign to the event management jobs such as contacting vendors and stuff like that because I was part of an event organizer. So having skill set of online events and also offline events, I feel like I'm the best candidate for this position.
As I mentioned to you earlier, there's always an initiative that MUIS Activities Officer does. So, what would be one of your initiatives you would like to do next year?
The initiative that I will plan to do next year, if it's on campus, is revamping Chill with MUISS because so far, Chill with MUISS has always been this on-campus walk-in event that we have in booths and people can just come in our booth and play mini games and get free food. But like, for example, if we're doing like Yemen or something, or if we're doing India, like I want again to educate and raise awareness. I want to not just create mini games and free food, but I also want people to like learn about what's happening in India right now. Like how can we help the issues in India? I can provide them with, for example, QR codes about petitions in India. And I can not just create games, but also kind of like have a mini general information about the issue in India and how we can help the students. Again, like sign petitions and stuff like that. So I feel like that's part of my initiative for next year if I'm the activist officer for international students.
So, a lot of the countries are represented by country representative officers, but there are a few minorities that are still not represented in Monash. How would you want to represent them through being a MUIS Activities ISO?
So I feel like for the very minorities communities in Monash, I feel like I really want to just like head on like approach them in real life and like how and like talk about them, like how many people are from your countries and stuff like that. And I feel like I can also work along with the student life department of Monash to like have a data of like who's from who, and like I can have like a small events of all the minorities because I also want inclusivity as I'm an activist officer, and I believe that inclusivity is not inclusivity if not all minorities are represented. So yeah, I feel like I'm gonna approach them head on, whether it's online or offline, but also I'm gonna be working with student life to have the data and just create events according to them.
Okay. So as you mentioned, there is a bridge between international and local students, but that also comes when transfer students come from Australia. So how would you want to bridge the gap between transfer students, international and local students? because they tend to stay in their own groups. And I understand you told me about local and international, but what about transfer?
So for these transfer students, I do have like seniors talking about this, and I plan to also include everyone again, internationals, transfer students, and also local students, but just having like collaborations with MUSA again, and also just creating these collaborations with MUSA that work for everyone. For me personally, to make them like want to come into our events, I will just actually like share like a Google form or Google Docs consisting of, for example, all the events that MUISS are going to do next year. Because if I do this and I share this to the people, like these students can actually get an idea of like, okay, so this is our MUISS events in the forums, and like these are actually for all students, and like I can feel represented, and it's also create a sense of anticipation for them. Like they can say to their friends, oh hey, there's this event, and like I'm gonna attend this, and they can vote for the events in the Google Docs. So at the same time, I can also create events that students want to join. So I feel like international students, transfer students, and local students through these Google Docs that I plan to create also, like they can have a feedback of like what events they want to make as international student or as a transfer student, and I want to create events that they also want to join. So yeah.
So you managed to get enough students to sign up for your events?
So the question is about how will I manage to get enough students to sign up for my events, right?
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
realized this year it was very difficult for us. I understand it's an online platform, but if it's changed to an on-campus platform, how would you still manage to get enough students to come to your events?
Yeah, so again, I'm gonna be doing like collaborations with Musa because oftentimes I get this advice from one of the committee members also that sometimes the MUISS events that MUISS are planning to have, Musa is also thinking of having the same thing. So rather than both divisions are going forward with their very similar plans, I want to just like collaborate with them so that like it doesn't divide the number of participants for each event, but like rather it can be more participants. And also I want to create again the Google form, because through this Google form, the people that fill it can actually have a sense of anticipation, have a sense of excitement. For example, if they see, for example, MCN in the Google form, they will feel like, okay, so MCN is happening, like I have to look out for this because I want to join this, you know what I mean? And people can vote for what events they want to come in. So I feel like that's the way I can make sure that enough participants are able to attend the events next year.
I understand that you haven't really been to uni and be a part of most events because you joined during October. So when you're going to be in your second year, second semester next year, you're going to have difficulty like balancing the two together. So how do you plan to make sure that you don't get lost in either academics or just in MUISS work?
I feel like one of my strategy to do that is actually recruit very competent and passionate subcommittees to help me, because again, if I'm doing this all alone, I probably will not be able to do it again. So I feel like having a very thorough process of eliminating and interviewing subcommittees is very important. But I also want to emphasize that like it's gonna be hard. I know that it's gonna be hard, and I want to emphasize that I'm the type of person that is not afraid to ask for help, and I know that my MUISS team right now will also be willing to help me. So I feel like I have a great organization skill, like in terms of organizing my academics and stuff. But if I need help, I'm not the type of person who are afraid to ask for help, and I feel like I need to also filter out which subcommittees are able to be in my department so that they can also help me with that. Yeah.
Um, I think you've realized that MUIS as a whole is very flexible and each department doesn't stick to one. So activities doesn't only do activities work, they do a bit of editors and a bit of CRO. So do you think you're flexible enough to make sure that you're helping everyone out and trying to make sure that you get the best event planned and executed?
I feel like I am definitely flexible enough because I, again, like I said, my MUISS team is very also flexible and we're very transparent with our jobs. And again,
Mhm.
one of my initiative is to like create this management platform, and through this we can see who needs help with what, and like everyone is kind of forced to be flexible, and I do believe that I'm flexible enough. And when the time comes to be flexible for other people, not just for me, through this management initiative that I intend to have within the division MUISS itself, people can just be ready. For example, if they're seeing in the management app that someone is lacking of this, like we can all just help. And I feel like me being flexible and me having the perfect organization skill is very much will be helpful to the team.
Okay, I think that's about it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Shivani and Gerald. So that will end our session on the questioning by the office bearers. We'll move on now to the public Q&A. We've not got a question yet, so if you do have one, do submit it through the YouTube chat. Just type it in and we'll ask them. We'll pass it on to Gerald. In the meantime, while we wait for some new questions, Shivani, do you have any more questions for Gerald, maybe?
No, that's about it.
Okay, sure, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll give the audience a bit of time just in case they want to ask any more questions. Well, plenty of support there for you, Gerald. That's
Thank you,
good.
guys.
All right, there appears to be no questions for Gerald. With that said, we shall end the Q&A by the public, and we'll move on now to the closing statement. The floor is yours, Gerald.
Okay, so for my closing statement, so again, thank you, Shivani, for the questions. I just want to emphasize that if I get elected as a MUISS ISO Activities Officer, it will be my top priority to hold and manage events that cater to the international student needs and concerns. Again, as someone who is very passionate in this field, I am committed in executing my job desk and manifesto, whether next time is online or offline, as I have the skill set of both being a subcom and also managing events before. Thank you very much. That's all for me.
All right, thank you, Gerald. And thus ends our session today for the MUSA 20 election debate on the MUISS ISO activities position. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Shivani. Thank you, Gerald. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.